And we're live. Why did the lighting change? Okay. Hi. This is me doing the celebrity thing. Just real quick before I start. Um, I don't have a whole lot of names. I don't know a whole lot of celebrities. I see a movie, and I don't really point out a person very often. And and on top of that, I don't pay attention to anything beyond the movie, like media stuff and everything. So then I can't really tell you if somebody has imbalance issues or not. I mean, we all do from time to time. It just happens. It's normal. But like continuous imbalance issues. Uh, I'm a little nervous. My stomach's all. Brain's trying to stop me from doing this. The whole 9 yards. Um, um, yeah, just bear with me. Um, so something I didn't do was I was going to make a little video ahead of time that was kind of explaining a little more in depth as to what I'm doing, but I guess I'll just kind of do a little bit of that real quick now. I am attempting to um, tell celebrities what's wrong with them. That sounds awful. Okay, that said, maybe wasn't said in the best words, but there's a reason for that. Um, so, my goal here is not just call people out on the carpet type of thing. It's this is really tricky because this is live. It's not. I didn't lock it to because you can make it private so that nobody can see it. No, it really is live right now, and I'm really just rambling. Okay, so what I need to do is stop, realize not realize that you're there. To do that, I'll have to block my screen so that I can't see myself, so that I can kind of forget that I'm being videoed. And the reason why um, is because the information. Let's pretend for a moment that you want this information. Okay, the information that you want, you need to get from my brain before the filters. A lot of times you will hear somebody out in the world and they'll talk like they don't have a filter. And for as much as it's like, you don't want to agree with them or anything because they sounded rude when they said it and, not very nice, all that stuff. Um, 9 times out of 10, they're right, aren't they? There's a reason for that. So that's kind of my goal here is to speak before the filters happen. So sometimes I might say something that is confusing, for one, kind of like code. um, and sometimes I might probably for sure will offend people. And that's because I'm not using the filters. I'm not adding all the extra pretty that makes things sound better. But by not adding that stuff, that makes things better because basically the more time, more chances that I give to my brain to back out, then it will. And it won't say stuff clearly. There's a reason why stage fright happens. It's not just an emotional thing. There's also a functional thing going on, and that is the brain is trying to keep you alive. It's a survival thing, actually. It's stopping you from doing something that the brain, you may feel you need to do, but the brain says you do not need to do for survival purposes. Because if you make a fool of yourself, now the world knows, right? Especially nowadays with video cameras and you know, I mean, right now this is airing in Japan somewhere, or could be. Nobody in Japan's paying attention to me. But the point is, your mistake is out in the world everywhere as soon as you make it. So it's even more of an issue these days, and it is causing issues in the brain. But I won't get into that right now. This is about you. um, so so like I said, yeah, I might be rude and whatever else. That's actually good. That is actually going to be a good thing because then that means it's like think of it like I'm speaking from the heart. Not, but I am. It's weird. Anyway, So I'm going to start with Howie Mandel. Oh, wait a minute. Hold on real quick before I say that. Rewind. There's probably going to be some other things that I realize along the way that I should have said also as part of the preparation. I'll do it along the way then. Sorry, my bad. So I'm going to start with Howie Mandel because he's actually one of the first ones that kind of gave me the idea. He had a commercial for OCD a while back, and it was actually him that got me started on the whole, I'm going to start figuring these people out. I'm going to figure out what happened to them. What really happened to them. Again, forgive my wording. It has to be said. It's not just the filter too. It's sometimes things have to be said a certain way in order for my brain to say, yeah, that's what makes sense. Yes, that's why I'm allowing that to be said, because that's what makes sense. I could give you an example, but I'm not going to waste any more time. Anyway, so I'm going to be reading from Wikipedia. I know it's not the greatest source of information, especially because people can add and take away. But I'm considering it. It's very important to be able to just use one source as opposed to the brain having to say, what if I use this? What if I use that? What if I use that? It's considered too many options. It becomes overwhelming, and it gives the brain, again, a reason to back out. There's reasons I'm saying all this stuff. And I know that you aren't familiar with my theory, the emotional functional, that's just what I call it, whatever you want to call it. But hopefully as time goes by, you'll kind of catch on. It's not difficult. It's really not, especially when it comes to actually speaking to someone about themselves. That's my dad. Never mind. Sorry. I don't know if you heard the little diddle-diddle-doo, but something in the computer made a ringing noise. It never does that. And that's weird. Anyway, okay. So I'm going to start with Howie Mandel. Forgive me, I'm a little slow. I'm going to go to Wikipedia. I have an old phone, so it moves a little slow as well. Now, I'm going to say this. I already actually did. Two of you I already actually did. Howie Mandel and Jennifer Aniston. My brain just did it on its own a while back. So what I'm doing is actually kind of repeating. So just bear with me on it. Because I know when it comes to Jennifer Aniston's in particular, I have more information than I'm probably going to say in this video, just because I have it in my phone somewhere in a memo, and I can't find it right now. I'm not going to worry about it. But there was some other stuff about her. All right, let's see here. Sorry, I got to get to where the Wikipedia is. There we go. All right. So I'm just going to, this is the boring part. I'm just going to basically, read the stuff, and with the regular, there we go. So what I'm going to do is going to be no different than like what a doctor does. You give them pieces of information and they put it together as best they can, like a puzzle, to figure out what is and what isn't going on. I'm just using some different ways a little bit than what they do. So nothing's concrete. And like I said, this is Wikipedia. Who knows how much is actually real and not real? And there's also some questions I would like to be able to ask that, truth be told, most likely, Howie, I'll speak to you. It's like you've probably already written a book about it, about your life, all that stuff. And you've probably already answered some of those questions. And it's not to be rude when I say this, truly, because what I want to do and what I will actually get to do are two different things. I wouldn't mind reading your book. Sure, why not? It would answer my questions, most likely. But my brain says no. I don't need to. It's a little tricky to explain, but just know that it's actually kind of important, because that's really kind of the answer behind a lot of mental health stuff, is when the brain says no, you don't need to. Not you, your brain. Big difference. Anyway, okay, so Mandel was born in Toronto and raised in Bathurst Manor, Toronto neighborhood. He is Jewish, and his ancestors immigrated from Romania and Poland. Mandel is a distant cousin of Israeli violinist, Ishak Perlman. His father was a lighting manufacturer and a real estate magnate. Mandel attended William Lyon Mackenzie Collegiate Institute, where he was expelled for impersonating a school official and hiring a construction company to build an addition to the school. I'm going to throw this in there real quick. That was actually one of my questions, and that was, what age or grade level was that? There's a reason for it. He hired a construction company to build an addition to the school. Afterwards, Mandel worked as a carpet salesman. He was a stand-up comedian at Yuk Yuk's in Toronto, and by September of 1978, he had a week-long booking as a featured act, which was billed as a wild and crazy borderline psychotic. Okay. On a trip to Los Angeles, Mandel performed a set at the Comedy Store, which resulted in his being hired as a regular performer. A producer for the syndicated comedy game show Make Me Laugh saw him there and booked Mandel for several appearances during the show's run in 79 to 80. He was booked to open for David Letterman at shows in the summer of 79. CBC's TV's head of variety programming saw his performance in October of 79 and immediately signed him for a TV special. In 80, he won the lead role in the Canadian movie Gas, co-starring Susan Aspach and Donald Sutherland. Mandel was one of the first VJs to appear on Nickelodeon's music video series Pop Clips. Okay, the next part. Mandel came to national attention in the United States during a 6-year run on St. Elsewhere starting in 82 and playing the role of Dr. Wayne Fiscus opposite Ed Flanders and Norman Lloyd. He also appeared on a week's worth of episodes of the short-lived NBC game show Match Game Hollywood Squares Hour in March 1984. While working as Dr. Fiscus and continuing to work as a comedian, Mandel also worked in films, including providing the voice of Gizmo. Thanks, by the way, on that. In the 1984 hit Gremlins and its 1990 sequel, Gremlins 2, The New Batch. In 1985, Mandel made a cameo in the Michael J. Fox directed short The Iceman Hummeth, which was subsequently broadcast on The Late Night with David Letterman in November of 85. In 1986, he starred in A Fine Mess alongside Ted Danson. He performed his stand-up comedy act in several cities, the Watusi Tour, which was followed by his Watusi music video in 87. For the first 2 seasons of Muppet Babies, he voiced Bunsen, Honeydew, Animal, and Skeeter. He starred alongside Amy Steele in the 87 comedy film Walk Like a Man. He was also Maurice in the 1989 movie Little Monsters. In 1990, he starred in a short-lived sitcom Good Grief on Fox. He was also the creator and executive producer of the Emmy-nominated children's animated series Bobby's World. Charlie Brown, by the way. 1990 to 1998, to which he supplied the voices of the title character and his father, Bobby's World, Bobby's World ran for 7 seasons on Fox and was later syndicated. 1992 saw the weekly airing of his self-titled comedy show, Howie, with multiple guest stars such as Gilbert Gottfried, Little Richard, and Lita Ford as the in-house band guitarist. His character, Bobby, made a regular appearance on the show. In 1994, Mandel voiced the lead character, Little Howie, of the video game Toonland. He starred in the sketch comedy series Howie Mandel's Sunny Skies in 1995 on Showtime. Mandel appeared in the 1995 Clint Black music video Summer's Comin'. He played the lead role of the professor in the short-lived TV series The Amazing Live Sea Monkeys. And he guest starred on 1996 episode of the ABC TV series Lois and Clark, The New Adventures of Superman, as DC Comics supervillain Mr. That name. I'm not sure. I'm going to take a second real quick here. The reason I said those words and I said them kind of quietly is because while I'm reading to you, my brain does something in particular. Like when I said that good grief, if you notice, I said it kind of like Charlie Brown. I didn't do that consciously. It just happened. But to show, hey, I recognize that. I recognize when my brain does stuff and why it does stuff. Anyway, and I do that from occasion. So you'll see me just make like I'll kind of try and show I'm making a side note just because that's just how it works. Anyway, so back to what we're saying. Okay, in 1998, he hosted his syndicated talk show, The Howie Mandel Show, which was canceled after one season. From 99 to 2000, he played Jason in the film Apocalypse 3. Tribulation was the voice of Jack in the movie The Tangerine Bear. In 2000 and 2002, he played the Sandman in the movie Hansel and Gretel. In 2006, he appeared as himself as a guest host in a parody of Deal or No Deal. Hold on one second. That's why I wanted to read through this. I was wondering why, because it's like, you already know what you did, and so does everybody else. That's not really in question. So really, I could actually skip the film stuff, but there was actually a particular point that I wanted to question, and it had something to do with the Deal or No Deal. It took me a moment to realize why I was reading through all this stuff, because it's like my brain's like, we don't need to go through. Anyway, I don't know where it says it, but I do remember it saying it. And that had something to do with Deal or No Deal, where you actually kiss somebody on the cheek or you allowed them to kiss you on the cheek, something like that. That's a little important. I'm trying to remember why. You have to forgive me. Like I said, I figured out your stuff a while back, and it's one of those things where once it's been said, it's done. Done. Move on now. So then the idea of being able to go back to it, not always possible. This is one of the reasons why it's important to say these things with no filter. Okay. I don't see it. Oh yeah, I remember that. Okay. It doesn't show it on here, so I'm just gonna go ahead and skip ahead because, like I said, we already know that stuff. Additional appearances. Known as his appearance as a comedian, hidden camera segments of The Tonight Show, appeared in television commercials, Boston Pizza. I'm trying to skip ahead to that part if I can find it. I apologize. I'm not the greatest organized person here. Meal or no meal? Okay. Oh, he's the secretive banker. I missed that part. Sorry. Yeah, you. Yeah, I'm not seeing it. Okay, so I'm just gonna skip ahead because it's not crucial, but it does say something. So we'll just do the personal life and health. Okay. And part of the reason for reading what Wikipedia has is because if for some reason I'm telling something that's wrong, now you can see where that information is coming from specifically. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, so Mandel has been married to Terry Mandel since 1980. Together they have 3 children, Jackie, Riley, and son, Alex. On September 4th, Mandel received a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Comedy Central listed number 82. Received Canada's Walk of Fame in Toronto. The induction ceremony was held on September 12th. In October 2008, Mandel revealed that he has attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. I know why you do. ADHD on the morning talk show Live with Regis and Kelly, adding that he is currently working to raise adult ADHD awareness among the general public. I'm going to stop there for a moment. I'll tell you what ADHD really is for the brain, if my theory is correct. It's searching. That's what it's basically doing. It's searching. It's searching for something that makes sense. It's searching for a particular answer. Um, this is probably why you often feel like I don't want to say often, because especially in the recent past, I'd say that you've probably gotten to a particular plateau point. Like you know where your weaknesses are and you know where your strengths are. So now you know what you got to do as you move forward. Whereas before, years ago, when you were still learning your strengths and weaknesses, you were still kind of dotting back and forth, and you may have been a little more, we'll say, jumpy at that time, the hyperactivity type of thinking. Um, so you almost have to imagine like you have this magnifying glass. Your brain has a magnifying glass, and we all have one. It's our ability to focus. If you lose a contact or an earring on the floor, our brain gives us the ability to focus in on those teeny tiny little spots instead of one great big area. It allows us to focus in on one teeny tiny little spot. So it's like pulling out a magnifying glass to be able to do that. Of course, if you had your magnifying glass all the time, it'd be like squinting all the time. Cause a lot of headaches, right? So the idea is that you should be able to use the magnifying glass, but then put it away. The problem is with anxiety, ADHD, etc. These are basically, it's the brain searching. It's looking for a particular answer. It's looking for something that makes sense. Something. I can't really say specifically what it is. All I can tell you is the process that's actually happening in the brain. If I knew a little bit more, I might be able to tell you more, but beyond that, I mean, for your particular situation, it's searching to figure out the bug thing that happened to you, but we haven't gotten into that, so I didn't want to kind of jump ahead as if you didn't know, right? Because the truth be told, I don't think the bug thing is the thing that's actually causing the problem. I know that sounds a little crazy when I say that, and I shouldn't have jumped ahead, but I can't help myself. I still haven't covered the screen, so I can still see me. This is awful. I just realized the screen is tilted. I won't be able to cover it. Usually I can put a notebook up to it, but it's tilted for my background purposes. Sorry. That sucks. Anyway, we're just going to keep moving forward then. Yeah. We'll get into the bug thing in a few minutes here, but I just wanted to explain to you. I just want to tell you real quick about the ADHD thing. But that's why it's happening. It's like you have this magnifying glass out. Actually, one of the best ways I can describe it, one of the videos I made is, and God said, Robin, if God came to you and said, I've got the answer you're looking for, the greatest answer of all, right? And I'm going to give it to you, but you won't know when, how, from whom, where, nothing. Don't you think you'd have a magnifying glass out, be watching the alert all the time for that answer to show up? It's kind of like that. Your brain doesn't know where it's going to come from, when, how, where. So it's everything. It's looking at every little thing. That's part of the reason for the germ thing. But I'll get into that in a minute. Anyway. Adult ADHD awareness among the general public. January 12, 2009, Mandel was reportedly sent to St. Michael's Hospital in Toronto for suffering chest pains and what was reported as a minor heart attack. I think I know what caused that. I could be wrong. And I only say that because I'm familiar with it. Most likely, if you have ADHD, you're probably taking an ADHD medicine, which also causes the heart to speed up a little bit. I can't get into the specifics because it is kind of personal, we'll say, for you and for me. But let's just say that's, yeah. I think if that was the problem, I think I've said enough on that you're going to be like, oh yeah. According to various news reports, he was experiencing irregular heartbeat, but the reports were later revealed as inaccurate and was later discharged. Now, I'm going to throw an extra piece of information in there about that. I actually had a friend, her mom, she's had an irregular heartbeat for many, many years. I think that the brain did that on purpose. Think of it like if your heartbeat is going beep, 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 but the information, speed of the information in your brain is beep, 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 beep. In order for the two to kind of keep up with each other, they have to somehow regulate, they have to somehow match with each other. I do believe that sometimes the brain does this on purpose. I believe there's other reasons too, but I believe that sometimes this does this on purpose. The reason the brain speed is fast is typically because of the anxiety or the ADHD, the searching for information thing. Um, so that's why it speeds up. And in my friend's mom's case, same thing. Um, so then, yeah, it does create like a irregular heartbeat thing. So that's just a side thing I had to throw in there just because I don't know why. I just did. Ta-da! There it is. Okay, so and then let's see here. Okay. Mandel is colorblind and a germaphobe. He contracted COVID-19 at the 2022 Kids' Choice Awards, which caused him to miss parts of the 3rd, 8th, and 10th episodes and the entire 7th episode of the 7th season of America's Got Talent. 17th season. That was a lot of information there. Hang on. The lockdown during the epidemic also led to physical and mental health struggles, including drug and substance abuse. Now, so COVID. I'm not even going to go into that because that's a whole other story. COVID is not what. COVID was a big trigger for a lot of people. I don't think it's. I'm going to probably regret saying this. It's not what people think it is. It's not the people think it is. But it is even more so beyond what people think it is because of what it's actually doing to the brain. I shouldn't say anything more on that because I would almost have to explain from the beginning and yeah. Anyway, okay. I was really hoping to make these shorter videos so they wouldn't be annoying to watch. So right there I have a question. And that is, when did you become colorblind? All your life or since a particular time? And the reason I say that is because my brain says that's where it started. Well, excuse me. My brain says the bug thing that happened is not what started things. We're resilient creatures by nature. Our brains are very resilient. We can get knocked down and get back up again, right? And if someone knocks you down once, you get back up just because. But they knock you down a second time, you kind of lay there for a second, like, what? What's going on? I mean, you might get back up again still. But either you're going to lay there for a second, like, what's going on? Or you're going to get up in anger. But either way, all of a sudden there's question in the brain. The first time it happens, it doesn't always really cause a big question in the brain. At least not one that can't be let go of. People knock you over in a crowd and you just, oh, I'm not going to go chasing after that person. It's a big crowd, whatever. And your brain can explain it away. But a second time something hitting the brain and it can't make sense of it. Now it's like, oh, okay. But there was that first time that something happened. I really got to fix this because it's like, sorry, it's going to give me this yellow light, but it is what it is. Anyway, I wish I could find my other handkerchief, but I think somebody took off with that. Anyway, so it, for as much as there's a lot of people that think that this is what's causing their mental health issues. They go to the therapist and they say, oh, when I was such and such years old, such and such happened to me, and this is what's causing it. And I won't say they're wrong, but I will say that oftentimes there's something that usually happens first. It's just something that happens. Anyway, the brain can kind of put things on a back burner and come back to it. But when something happens a second time that hits the brain in a certain way, now it can't always just do that, especially like during our childhood. Um, we're not stupid. We know we don't know everything. And so when something happens, our brain knows that it can push it to the back. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, when it comes to depression, one of the big go-tos that our brain uses when we are children in order to get past things is this phrase. See if you've heard this one before. You're too young right now. You'll understand when you're older. Right? So that works when it's said by someone that not only does the brain trust emotionally, but functionally as well. This person makes sense to them. They are a reliable source, so to speak. So when a reliable source, a parent or grandparent, someone says something like that to a child, you're basically reprogramming that brain and saying, okay, this happened and we're not forgetting about it, but we are going to put it on the back burner and we'll worry about it when we're older. When are we considered older? When we're adults. When are we considered adults? Around the age of 18. And this is why you oftentimes will see people during their teenage years, late 16, 17, 18, go through these kind of weird phases. Now, automatically, we always think that it's because, oh, well, they're getting ready. They're looking to graduate here soon. They don't know what they want to do with their life. They've got all that going on in their head, questioning. And that's what's really causing the problem. I'm not going to argue with that. I'm sure that's definitely a factor. But the other factor is, guess what? It's time. Years ago, when that parent, that adult, that trusted adult said what they said to that child, you're too young to understand, but you will when you're older. They basically did that. You wrapped up a gift and put the little note on it that says, do not open till Christmas of such and such year. That's what they did. They reprogrammed the brain to wait on that information for a particular time to come along. Now, that doesn't mean there won't be some, what I call hiccups along the way, but generally it did help out a lot because there weren't as many kids with mental health issues as there are nowadays. There's a reason that's increasing, but that's another story. Anyway, though, the point is that these things happen and the brain's strong and it passes by them until it can figure out until it can make sense of whatever it is. And in your particular case, what my brain says, okay, so this is tricky. What my brain says is no. When it comes to the bug thing, it says no, something first. The bug thing's not enough. I know. You want to look at me and be like, you didn't live through it. Trust me, if you would live through it, it would have been enough. And I get that. I do. But this is really tricky. Especially because it's like arguing with the professionals that probably have sat down for hours and spent hours and hours of your life talking to professionals and working through all this stuff just to find out, well, this is what it is and this is what makes sense. And I get that. But I'm going to give you another option. And this is me kind of assuming, because like I said, I don't have all the information. It doesn't say when the color blindness started. But it's, and my brain doesn't say that's what it is. I kind of, misspoke when I said that earlier. It did not say that's what it is. It said, what if that's what it is? And the reason why is because, all right, let's just pretend for a moment that you were born that way, or from a very young age, you were colorblind. So let's see, you were born in the year that you were born in, which was a long time ago, before computers and all this social networking was happening. You were born during a time where things were more closed. So now, let's look at this from this point of view, because right now you're still looking at it as an adult, and you probably are thinking, I'm fine. I'm over that. That never bothered. No big deal. A lot of people say that about things, but here's what they don't realize. So, sorry, it's like contradicting doctors. It's tough because I know my words are like doing that, and I don't mean to. I really don't. Um, I tried to talk to them first, but they don't answer emails. Anyway, okay, so you have to think of it like this. So you're a kid, and to begin with, kids are very selfish in their thinking and they're doing things. They're very imaginative, they're very affectionate. There's a lot of emotional showing in children. There's also got to be that functional too. So, and our brains just in general can be selfish, more selfish than I think a lot of us realize. But that's okay. It's actually supposed to be that way, and for good reasons, not just bad ones. Um, no, no, now I've got to say it because my brain was like, "Well, say it." The fact that we can look at a room full of stuff, but only focus on one little thing, is our ability to be selfish. That's all works hand in hand with each other. Our ability to focus and our ability to be selfish work hand in hand. Okay, so what was I saying? So here you are, a little kid, and let's say you're colorblind. Were any of the other kids around you colorblind? Was there any way for you to reach out and on the internet or to other groups and stuff of children who are also colorblind? I'm going to say no. I'm just going to assume no, that you were kind of alone. So misery loves company. I don't know why my brain always says that, but it does. When we can share our misery with someone else, it's not so bad. We don't feel alone. We don't feel attacked in the same way. When we are the only one, we are the only one. We're all alone. We're isolated. We're attacked. It doesn't make sense. And when something like that doesn't make sense to our brain, it now starts to look around for answers. Especially if, and this is another thing I don't know about, and that is what caused the color blindness. Sometimes it's from birth. Sometimes it happens like maybe because of a car accident. So if your brain can relate a car accident, this is the event that caused the color blindness, then it can kind of make sense of it. Now, that's not 100% still saying, okay, I made sense of this and I'm okay with it now. But it could make sense of it. It could be okay with it. But let's just say, for example, it was from birth, or it just magically happened. The brain, it really can confuse the brain. The part of the brain, the functional part of the brain, needs things to make sense. Not wants it to, needs. Life and death even. And it will start looking around to make sense of it because it can't move on. It gets stuck. Like how they say depression is these little knots in our head. Well, I call them pauses. I actually call them, what do I call them? Oh my gosh, I forgot what I call them. I don't call them knots. I call them thorns because they can wiggle too. Like I said, those hiccups that can happen over the years that kind of show things, something's not quite working in the gears like it's supposed to. They're little things sometimes. Anyway, though, it's the brain that's paused. It doesn't know what to do with this information. It can't move forward and file it away because it's not been figured out. But it can't just drop it and let it go because it's too important. So it needs to make sense of it. And in order to make sense of it, it has to find an answer. And it goes from looking, and when looking isn't working, it goes to searching. Inside the brain as well as outside the brain, which is when you start seeing the anxiety and the ADHD. That's all that is. The brain trying to figure out, make sense of this particular something. So the thing you have to ask yourself is, was there a point when you were a child, and really think back, for as much as you might be okay with it now, and have been for many, many, many years, Was there ever a time during your childhood where you could say, yeah, my being colorblind did bother me a little. It did make me different. The kids did pick on me because I didn't see things the way they did. Anything at all that's related to that. There's where it started things. um, the germaphobe thing kind of actually goes along with the searching. Um, Again, if you're searching for something, you're not just going, oh, there, 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 there. You're moving in on it with that magnifying glass. You're examining it. It this is kind of tricky to explain because I have to explain other things too along with it to really explain it. So I'm trying to bounce over it as best I can. It's a long explanation going into the instinctual brain, and we're not going there right now. Because I don't think your instinctual brain was messed with, so to speak, when it came to all this stuff. Possibly only because the blueprints are in there, the brain blueprints, if that makes sense, they're in there. And when something happens in the brain, something shows up in the brain that shouldn't be there, that in itself could be causing a problem. The fact that the brain looks at the blueprint and says that's not right. Like a knot, a depression knot, something, whatever. One of those knots from depression being in the head, that in itself, even if the issue is settled, if the knot is there for some reason, because the memo didn't get through, whatever, the knot there, being there itself, is an issue for the brain because it's not part of the original blueprint. Why did I even go off on that tangent? I'm so sorry. Whoopsie. I was on the germaphobe thing. So the germaphobe thing, its origin, its base, its roots in the brain, process-wise, is actually a good thing. Or it's not neither good nor bad, I guess, actually. So you know how you'll watch those cooking shows and somebody will say, okay, I'm gonna take a bite of this, and they go, oh, okay. Oh, there's a little bit of black pepper. Oh, you're using white pepper too. And some paprika. See how they're actually taking this whole solid thing apart, piece by piece, what it is. So that's what the germaphobe thing is for you. That's what your brain is doing. And the reason why it's chosen the germaphobe thing, I'm going to guess. It was already doing, may not have been searching yet, but it was already doing the looking around to make sense of things from whatever happened during the childhood, we'll just say. If not colorblind, maybe something else. There was something else actually in question. But I didn't want to go into it because I don't feel really comfortable because it goes into question about your parents and it doesn't talk anything about your parents. So I don't want to say anything about them. And I mean, I don't even know. But the idea is that, like I said, I do believe something happened before the bug thing that caused the brain to start already the looking around. Then the bug thing happened, and now it's got to start searching. And so, along with that searching, I mean, for very obvious reasons, I can completely understand why it'd be like, oh, I actually put a memo on my phone talking about it, but it's like you never know where it's going to come from. You put your hand down and something, and all of a sudden came out, and didn't think anything of it, and then all of a sudden you find out, oh, there's something there, and so then I can understand being afraid. I can't even put my hand into a suitcase. I can't put my hand into a bag because I did that before and something came out with my hand. So I can't do that. So I do understand that concept of why your brain is doing that, and it's using that kind of on purpose. Like I said, because it's trying to, everything it sees through that magnifying glass, it's actually trying to dissect. Make sense? So, I know there was one more thing I wanted to say about the germaphobe thing. Let me see if I can remember it real quick. Something too much. The germaphobe thing. My brain. Here we go again. My brain says the germaphobe thing was too much. That's why it says it's not legit. Now, when I say that, that does not mean that you're lying. It does not mean. Sometimes the brain will use something on purpose to not only trick the world outside, but also us. In order to protect us, in order to make sense of something, in order to do what it needs to do, functionally speaking, it will sometimes use something as a distraction, as a tool to somehow distract not only the rest of the world, but us too. And so, yeah, it would do that. Again, like I said, it's not that my brain can't see the possibility of that bug being a big thing causing all that stuff. It just says there's something more to. I don't know if when you were a child. See, it's like I said, it's very difficult because when ADHD actually starts out, it starts out in a way that people do not recognize. Like I said, we don't automatically go to searching. It's just like when you lose your keys. You don't just, the moment you realize you lost your keys, typically we don't just freak out right then and there and go from 0 to 60. We, I wonder where I put that. Let me just kind of start glancing around. Not seeing it right around here where I'm standing. So now I'm going to start looking around. And as time goes by, and we're not finding the keys, then we start becoming more anxious. And we begin to search over and over the same drawer, yanking it out, pulling everything out, dumping it all out. I got to find it. Right? So it's something very similar to that. And that's what's going on. Now, even though I pretty much have said I'm not going to give anybody any fixes, so to speak, in these videos, part of the reason for that is because you've gotten to a point in your life. You have a life. You have work. You have family. You have fame, fortune. I'm not even going to go into the celebrity part of it. You have a life. It's not a normal life, I guess, so to speak, but yet nowadays it's becoming more normal, the norm, right? And more importantly than anything, nobody's life is perfect, right? And like I said, maybe years ago it was really tricky because you were still trying to, figure out what is and what isn't, your weaknesses, your strengths, and so forth. But now you kind of have a pretty good handle on it, enough so that you can go around and mentor others. So, in a way, actually, I know that it's the silver lining in the cloud. What happened to you was actually a good thing because now you can help others. So maybe you shouldn't fix it. Not to say there is a fix, not to say there isn't a fix. Maybe it's better to leave it the way it is. I think just, all honesty, in your particular situation, just acknowledging is enough. I don't think there's necessarily a fix needed. I think your brain would be, content with just knowing. And beyond that, that's it. Okay, Howie Mandel, go sit down. Next. All right. Oh my goodness. So the next person I'm just going to pick on is Jennifer Aniston. Just because she was, after Mandel, she was the next person. There was someone else too that I saw a commercial for. Lady Gaga. That was the other one. I got hers too. The tricky thing is when I figure people's stuff out ahead of time, then trying to repeat it back, I get very wordy. As you saw, I mean, it took me almost 50 minutes to say Mandel stuff, and when I ran through this stuff on my own, no camera watching, I did it in 5 minutes. Um, that's because my brain doesn't have to keep me alive. It doesn't have to make me. I know. Here I am explaining it. It's because it doesn't. Doesn't have to protect me. Nobody's listening. Nobody's watching. There's nothing recording me. And so the amount of focus and flow that needs to happen in the brain, just the right balance of it, I have at that time and can talk. Oh my gosh. When you put me in this thing and I can't, it's not just being able to see it. Because I've even hidden my phone under my pillow. My brain knows it's being recorded. The only time I can kind of trick it is if I allow myself to fall back asleep and then kind of wake back up again. But even then, it does not always work. And even when it does work, it's not the greatest. It's still, I mean, it's all about the protection thing. Anyway, so, and then the obsessive compulsive, I forgot about that part actually. My apologies. Um, this is why the OCD is related to mysophobia, because it's the process that's happening in the brain is doing the same stuff all the way around. ADHD, OCD, all that stuff. You can see how it's all this. You got to find it. Got to find it. Got to count it. Got to know how many steps. Got to know exactly what's going on here. Because if you know exactly what's going on here, then you know exactly what it all entails. And so then you know if the answer's in there or not. If you know how many steps it is, then there's no surprises. So then the surprise isn't waiting for you on the steps of the answer that you've been looking for. I know it sounds kind of silly to say it that way, but yeah, that's why it happens. His anxiety affects him to the point that he does not shake hands with anyone, including enthusiastic contestants. Oh, okay, yeah. Um, to exchange fist bumps. Your brain figures it's got to find a way to somehow or another deal with other people. I don't know. It makes sense to do at least something. I can see it. I can get that. As opposed to saying nothing at all, you isolate yourself, you shut yourself down completely. And when it comes to the brain, it's the idea of shutting down completely is whereas it can use it to its advantage later on, like say during the bad thoughts, the suicidal thoughts, things like that. Um, it's not that's not its goal. Its goal is not to detach you necessarily. It's just it needs to know. It needs to know everything. So it just can't connect that way. But I can at least do that. I get that. Anyway, yeah, I wanted to know about that. There it is, right there where it says it. He once kissed a female contestant on the show for good luck despite his disorder. Now takes medicine to control his condition and even pokes fun at himself for it. Well, don't we all? Um, yeah, I get that. All or nothing thinking, getting rid of the hair. Yeah, that's functional. All that stuff that's affecting you is on the functional side, not the emotional side. Even when it seems like it's emotional, it's typically not. um, okay, so I think Oh, it says may have caused the manifestation of his mysophobia. Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. Oh, don't you love that when people say, "Oh, you just need to get over it." They're not wrong, but they're not right either. Because, like the brain, it's doing it on purpose. It is. Um. Okay. Yeah, I just want to make sure I covered everything because I could see it. Like, yeah. Hmm. I mean, I know it sounds crazy, and I know this is probably gonna be like not received very well, but it goes along with no is not enough. So sometimes you look at someone like you're at an amusement park, and they say, "Hey, go ride this ride," and you say no. You look at it, and it's not interesting. It's not whatever, and you say no, and they go, "Oh, okay, all right, we'll find something else." Look how no worked, didn't it? Right? But oftentimes that's not how it goes. Oftentimes that person says, "Oh, come on, why not? Go for it, go for it." And when we first reply, um, typically we're being fairly honest. No, I don't care for that. Oh, come on, come on, I just don't want to go on alone. You know, you're fine, right? Don't want to leave your buddy alone, right? So then you have to come up with something a little bit better. Well, I have motion sickness. You didn't have motion sickness on that last thing. What's the big deal, right? There's always some kind of a rebuttal coming back with that person because no is not enough. And so eventually our brain, for some of us, ends up becoming more emotional looking. Um, so then something in like that situation becomes like, no, I can't, no, I can't, or even crying. When you start showing that anxiety, when your brain starts showing anxiety and fear, people listen, don't they? Oh man, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to upset you. In fact, they don't just listen; they comfort you. They back off. They give. Here's that hat. I just wanted that last game. I apologize, man. You're my buddy, right? The whole 9 yards. I'm not saying that is what people are doing because I don't want people to think that it's not a conscious effort. Yes, there are some people out there that are doing it consciously. Okay, go on, move on. I'm talking about the deeper issue here, and that is that the brain is doing it, not the person themselves. It's not a conscious effort that's happening a lot of times with people when they do that. It's the brain doing it, and sometimes it's simply doing it because no is not enough. If I look sick, then you'll think I'm sick, and you'll leave me alone. It's the same like brain fog. Our brain uses brain fog on purpose because think of it like the whole ignorance is bliss. If you don't know how to do something, then nobody's going to ask you to do it, including yourself. Sure, you know how to do laundry. You've known how to do laundry since however many years, but all of a sudden brain fog causes you to forget how to do laundry. Like you forget like every other step or just altogether. Wonder why. Oh, well, that would be because it's using brain fog on purpose. So, um, Oh, I don't know. I'm not reading all that junk. I don't care. Sorry that those people did that to you. It they it's the selfish brain again. It doesn't make sense. They don't have a problem. So in their brain, before it hits the emotional filter, we'll say, kind of, if it doesn't make sense, then it shouldn't apply to it. If you don't have that problem, then nobody else should have that problem either. Everybody does it, including myself. I did that. My sister, she has what is that called? Mast cell mold poisoning. I mean, she's got a little bit going on, and for as understanding as I am to her, because I too have suffered with depression, anxiety, those invisible monsters, right? And because nobody can see them, you're just faking your depression, your anxiety, right? Um, so you would think me of all people that I would be completely understanding that when my sister says she can't walk in the garage because of mold issues, the outside garage where there's definitely a smell of mold. Um, I looked at her and said, "Oh no, it's not that bad. It's fine." I can't remember all of what I said to her, but basically it was like, I don't have a problem. You shouldn't either. I mean, I can smell mold, but it's not bothering me to smell it. So then it shouldn't bother you either. And yet, right, because her brain is doing the same thing yours is. It's um, it's taking something apart, and because of the what we'll call an overfocus of the senses, it's actually, it doesn't just smell mold; it examines it. Same for you. Um, uh, it's oh wow, I can't think of how further to go into that other than to say we all do it, no matter how much we may understand what it's like for someone else. We all do it. There are doctors out there that became doctors because they too have had difficulty with depression and anxiety, and they too have probably found themselves saying, "Well, you just have to move past it." Well, was that what worked for them? In fact, don't they still have it? I used to kind of volunteer on a website, a mental health website, talking to people, um, and some of them were doctors. Not some therapists. I shouldn't say doctors. I don't think I ever talked to anybody who was a doctor. But some of them were therapists. So, and yeah, we all do it. We all do it from time to time. And that's, can't help it. We are ourselves, and what makes sense to us is what makes sense to us, and what doesn't doesn't. And so, unfortunately, that is why some of those people did that to you, um, because it didn't make sense to them. And then, of course, there's all the publicity that comes from it and all the stuff. I'm sure it was a little planned. Anyway, what? I just read something that I do want to mention. Um, my cat was at the door. Okay, during AGT's 10th season premiere, contestant Chris Jones directly utilized Mandel's fear of germs as the subject of his hypnotism act. Under the post-hypnotic suggestion that Jones and the other judges were wearing latex gloves, Mandel shook the bare hands of all involved, which elicited shouts of amazement. After viewing the video of the act, Mandel said he was upset and somewhat betrayed. I get that. I mean, not I don't get that the same way everybody else says I get it. I get it mentally. I know what that did to your brain. His therapist subsequently said it was a good thing. I don't agree. I don't. And I'll bet for a little while after that, for as much as you may have tried to stay on the positive side about it, I'm wonder when that was. What year was the 10th season of America's Got Talent? I want to look that up. Okay, hold on. I'm going to look it up just because this is new information. This is my brain hasn't focused on this one yet. Okay. Yeah, 10th season. I got to find some way to get to that without. There we go. All right. When was the 10th season of America's Got Talent? I should say what year. 2015. 2015. All right, now let's go back to that real quick. Sorry. Let me see if I can. That's right. That's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for. Where was that part where it talked about? No, it didn't say it. That okay. I wondered if the St. Michael's Hospital in Toronto thing happened around that time, but no, it happened before that. Huh. Yeah, it's funny because the brain can work for us and against us all at the same time. So as much as there was a part of your brain that was a little on the amazed side, like whoa, wow, and there was another part of your brain that was not happy. And the funny thing is that you would think after a situation like that, you yourself would be interested to see like, well, if it worked, then could it work again, right? But you didn't, did you? You may have questioned it. You may have jokingly questioned it. Like, maybe I could do that again, trying to make light of it, to make it, it's a way of making it make sense to your brain that it happened, but that's okay. We're going to laugh it off, right? Yeah, I could definitely see that being a possibility for helping you do that. But but you never repeated it, did you? And let's see here. Okay. Yeah, some of the things that you've done, you've only been able to get away with because of your mental health issues. Let's see here. I just happened to notice something talking about how you pressed somebody else's. Osborne refused, so Mandel promptly ran over and pressed her button, ending the act. The only reason, I'm sure that's probably not that big a deal on that show. I don't know, but I'm willing to bet there's other times where there's been things like that, because it even says here, he expressed to the television audience that he received therapy to help him cope. So almost like as an afterthought, by the way, I did go. It's like recognizing I was in the wrong for doing something, and I've gotten therapy to work through it. Even though you weren't in the wrong for doing what you did, were you? But you were. It's one of those things. Darned if you do and darned if you don't. But yeah, it's just like I said. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to upset you. I didn't mean. Here's the hat from the game we were just playing. It's that all over again. The brain isn't stupid. It learns how to do things. It learns how to get stuff. It learns how to get the attention that it expects, that it needs. Oh, let's see here. I don't know. That's it. Excuse me. Yeah, you refused to give Olivier any feedback during the judge's voting process. Now, to a lot of people, not knowing your situation, they would look at you and think you're very childish. You're acting like a child, just like I'm not doing it, kind of thing, right? And yet it was acceptable because, right? I'm only pushing that because it's really important for people to understand. The brain does things on purpose. It's not just we automatically think, oh, I have depression, I have OCD, I'm just sick, I'm sick. Your brain is doing it on purpose. Your brain is being sick, so to speak, on purpose. Let's talk, Dave. Oh, okay. With the healthcare workers also involved in Bell's Let's Talk Day initiatives to help people struggling with mental health issues. Well, that might be something. Okay, so. Now, oh my gosh, it's been over an hour. Sorry, I'm talking. That said, I think we'll call it. Like I said, is there a cure? I don't know. Maybe not. I don't think it's really so much about a cure as much as it is you're fine. You're doing fine. I think that your brain having some, I guess we'll say closure, like it just knowing what really started things, what really is causing, that kind of thing. If I am correct with what I've said. I think that in itself should be just enough to just doesn't change it up or down. It just kind of helps to keep it that way because you've got your life set just fine. You're how old? You've got all these achievements, and again, you're helping other people that have problems similar to yours. I don't see anything wrong, and nobody's life is perfect. So that's it. And I think that I know I said I would cover Jennifer Aniston. Probably some other ones too. But I think we'll wait on that. Good luck, Howie. And end the stream.